By now, you have probably watched the videos on how to preview questions and do a graphic organizer based on passages for an assessment. I'm going to now read you 2 passages and show you 3 essays and how they would score when comparing the passage 1 to passage 2. Passage 1, Where Did the Bison Go? By Deborah Shoemaker. A happy herd of bison roams this Montana mountain valley. They look like huge shaggy cows and smell just as bad. They grunt at each other as they munch prairie grass. Babies hop and play. 100 years ago, it would have been hard to imagine a herd this big. Back then, bison had almost disappeared from North America for good. But this herd has made such a comeback that it grew too big for this valley in Montana's National Bison Range. Not long ago, 16 bison from this herd were moved away to start a new herd. They traveled 900 miles to Colorado, a place where bison lived for hundreds of years before settlers arrived. In a way, the 16 bison were going home. A disappearing act. When people first arrived in North America thousands of years ago, bison roamed all over. They lived as far east as New York City and as far south as Mexico. Most, however, lived in the Great Plains, including present-day Colorado. When Europeans arrived, millions of bison still roamed the plains. There were so many, one explorer said, that they looked like a black robe covering the land. Sadly, by 1893, only about 300 bison remained. How could millions of animals disappear? For hundreds of years, the Native Americans had lived alongside the bison. They depended on the animals for food and fur, but killed only what they needed. When Europeans arrived, they had different ideas about how the animals should be treated. As European settlers moved west, they killed entire herds to make room for their towns and ranches. Soon, bison were nearly extinct. Saving the bison. But some Americans weren't ready to say goodbye to bison. William Hornaday, the director of the Bronx Zoo in New York City, had a plan to save them. In 1899, he brought some to a zoo, starting a herd. He went on to found the American Bison Society in 1905 with help from President Theodore Roosevelt. 2 years later, the first bison preserve opened in Oklahoma. 15 bison that lived there had come from the Bronx Zoo. Today, at least 200,000 bison live in the United States. Most of them are raised on private ranches for meat. Some are free-ranging, which means they roam wild. The largest free-ranging herd, numbering about 4,000 bison, lives in Yellowstone National Park. About 20,000 wild bison live in the national parks and the National Wildlife Refuges, areas where they are protected by the government. The National Bison Range in Montana, the area we mentioned at the beginning of this story, is one of these national wildlife refuges. The second passage is called Saving the Taki by Click Magazine staff. Far away, on the grassy plains of Mongolia, herds of wild horses once ran free. Called Taki, the small sturdy horses did not trust strangers and could not be tamed or ridden. But the land where they lived did not stay as wild as the Taki. Explorers came and captured some of the Taki for zoos. More people came, bringing farm animals who ate the grass and scared the shy horses away to places with less food and water. Soon the only Taki left in the world all lived in zoos. The zoos began raising more Taki. But zoo-raised animals don't always know how to live in the wild, so zoo scientists moved some of their Taki to safe parks where the horses could practice finding their own food and shelter. At last, the strongest horses were taken to Mongolia and set free. Now hundreds of Taki again run wild. Taki aren't the only wild animals in trouble. The California condor and the Arabian oryx were once extinct in the wild too. Zoos help save them, and they're working hard to keep pandas and other rare animals safe too. For these 2 passages, we need to write an essay that describes how people save the bison and the Taki. The directions say, in your own words, write a multi-paragraph response that describes how people save the bison and the Taki. Be sure to include information about the events that led to the animals being in danger and the steps people took to protect the animals. Your response must be based on ideas and information that can be found in both passages. It's very important when they say to include information, like the events that led to the animals being in danger and the steps that people took to protect the animals, that you include all of those things in your essay. As a reminder, when you write, it's pretty standard that you need to use your own words to introduce and develop a topic, use evidence from the passages to support your topic, and use clear language to express ideas about your topic, making connections to your evidence or the passages. Every essay should include an introduction, focused, organized paragraphs. Every writer should pay attention to grammar, structure, and the mechanics of their sentences, and include a conclusion. They'll always give you a spot to write your multi-paragraph response, but remember, before you do that, take time to organize your thoughts. Write a graphic organizer on the blank piece of paper provided by your test proctor. Let's take a look at an essay that was written in response to the prompt of how people saved the bison and the taki. Let's see if you can guess how well this essay was scored. It's out of 10 points. In the two passages called Where Did Bison Go and Saving the Taki, there were two questions. How did people save the bison and taki? They saved the bison by: some Americans weren't ready to say goodbye to bison, and some guy named William Hornaday, he was the director of the Bronx Zoo in New York City, he had a plan to save them in 1899. He brought some to his zoo, started a herd. He went and found the society in 1905 and got help President Theodore Roosevelt 2 years later. The first bison preserve opened in Oklahoma. They saved the taki by: they did not trust humans and were very shy explorers came and captured the taki for zoos. More people came bringing farm animals who ate the grass and scared the shy horses away to places with less water and food, and then soon the only taki lived in zoos. The zoos began raising more taki. That's how people saved bisons and takis. This essay scored 5 points. That's half of the 10 points possible. Some notes on these scores. So they got 2 out of 4 on purpose, focus, and organization. This response earned partial credit because it reflects some original writing that is related to the topic. It is partially focused on the audience and purpose of the task. The organizational structure is inconsistent. In other words, as we're looking at this, there was a lot of wording and organization that should have been edited before this piece was submitted. It bounced around. The lack of punctuation did not help. In regards to evidence and elaboration, they got 2 out of 4 points. The response is limited and includes uneven and cursory support and evidence related to the purpose of the task. There is an ineffective use of sources, facts, and details. Elaboration contains limited original writing. So although this person did have some details from their text, they did not do a very good job of elaborating on it. They could have added a lot more details and shown where this evidence came from. Finally, on conventions, this response earned partial credit, 1 point, because it had various errors in usage, simple sentence structure that did not vary, and an inconsistent use of correct punctuation, capitalization, sentence formation, and spelling that minimally impacts the meaning. So they're not grading on spelling, but if things are spelled incorrectly and they can't tell what it means, then they can't really count it as an effective use of that word. Let's take a look at an essay that is far from perfect, but scores much higher. I'm going to be telling you how the bison population almost completely died out. Humans killed bisons for food and their fur. They only killed what they needed, but soon the humans killed too much. This led to the time where about only 300 bisons left. When humans first were killing bisons, there were millions. Now I'm going to be telling you how humans repopulated the bisons. William Hornaday, the director of Bronx Zoo in New York City, he brought some to his zoo. He protected them until there were a lot of bison, so that was repopulating the population. That is how people saved the bison and almost made the bison population almost die out. I'm going to be telling you the reason why the Taki population almost completely died out. Explorers came and captured some of the Taki from the wild for zoos. More people came to the zoos that Takis were in, and the people who did come brought farm animals that scared the Taki away to places with less food to eat and less water to drink. Now I'm going to be telling you how humans repopulated the Takis. The only Taki left that lived were in zoos, but soon after the zoos raised more Taki, repopulating the population. The Takis were set free, so now hundreds of Takis run free. This essay scored 8 out of 10. Again, you can see there's some errors in here, but let's take a look at why they got 8 points instead of only the 5 from the previous. So they got 3 out of 4 on purpose, focus, and organization. The response is adequate and reflects original writing that reasonably addresses a clearly stated topic. It is generally focused on the audience and purpose of the task. The organizational structure adequately reflects a sense of completeness. They also got 3 out of 4 on evidence and elaboration. The response is adequate and includes support and evidence that is related to the purpose of the task. It includes the use of evidence, facts, and details that are from all sources and generally connected to the topic. Elaboration of evidence is original writing, but may be generalized. Finally, they got 2 out of 2 points on conventions. The response demonstrated an adequate command of basic conventions. The response has few, if any, minor errors in usage, but no pattern of errors. The response has a variation of sentence structure and an adequate use of punctuation, capitalization, sentence formation, and spelling. So again, far from perfect, but that's 8 out of 10. Finally, let's look at a 10 out of 10. So here is our essay that scored 10 points out of 10. They start with a title, Saving Takis and Bisons. A lot of people saved a lot of Taki and bisons. One way they saved them is they took them and put them into their zoos. The land where the animals live was taken by people who brought their farm animals, who ate the grass and scared the shy horses away to places that had less water and food. Then people took these animals away to help them. The people who took and put the Taki raised them, and they only let the stronger one to go outside and practice finding their food and shelter. Now, hundreds of Takis run free in the wild today. People killed bisons for food and didn't leave very many bisons. Then came the people like William Hornaday who wanted to help them. So they took them to his zoo to keep them safe. The people who took the bisons licensed them to be free, and they are protected by the government. Now there are at least 200,000 bison live in the United States, all because of that one zoo and with the help of the government and President Theodore Roosevelt. Takis and bison are important animals to the people who saved them and took good care of them, and now some of the animals roam free as before. You can see that this is not a perfect essay. There's spelling errors, there are some run-on sentences, but they got complete credit for everything, and here's why. They got 4 out of 4 on purpose, focus, and organization because the response is exemplary or very good, reflects original writing throughout that directly addresses a clearly stated topic. It is focused on the audience and purpose of the task. The organizational structure creates clarity and completeness. They got 4 points on evidence and elaboration because the response is exemplary and includes thorough and convincing evidence that is directly related to the purpose of the task. It includes relevant evidence, facts, and details from all sources. Elaboration of evidence is focused, original writing, and is clearly connected to the topic. And they got 2 out of 2 on conventions because it had few, if any, minor errors in usage, but no patterns of errors. The response has a variation of sentence structure and an adequate use of punctuation, capitalization, sentence formation, and spelling. Take a moment to pause this video and really study the differences between the 10-point essay on the left and the 5-point essay on the right. Make some mental notes on what you can do when you write your essay comparing two nonfiction articles.